Hey guys, how's it going? I am returning the long-term Mini Clubman SD that I've had back to very mini. Now, I've actually had this car for 3 months and I know I haven't really shot much content on it, and I do apologise about that. I've been very busy with things like avoiding other minis coming towards me. Let's see if she thanks me. Does she thank me? Oh, she does. There you go. So yeah, I've been super busy. Oh god, this is... There we go. Super busy with... Wow, everyone's trying to kill me today. And I've got my headlights on. Anyway, I've been super busy with lots of things going on in my life. Super busy with work, super busy with things like the gas station, which hopefully many of you have seen. That was our very first attempt, it was our first edit, and when you consider that that cost us about 50 quid in snacks for the audience compared to over 100 million for an Amazon Grand Tour show, hopefully you can give us a little bit of credit for that, because it was great. It was a great pilot show. We've got a lot to learn. We know we had sound issues on the night, and we know looking back on the footage there were sound issues, etc. But I am actually quite pleased with the end result on that. Now back to this car. So it's going back on a very grey January day, and it's been brilliant. It really has. I've done just over 2,000 miles in it, and I've had it for exactly 3 months, and it hasn't missed a beat. It's been brilliant. It's been a really good... I've been using it as my proper daily. Like, the M135 has pretty much been a bit of a garage queen. My 7 left me a few weeks ago, and anyway, that's just for work. So this has been, it's, you know, I've done some really long journeys in it. I've done lots and lots of short journeys in it, and it's served its purpose really well. Now this particular car, I'll put the full spec underneath, but this particular car is a fairly high spec car, and when I tell you the price on it, especially people that aren't too familiar with modern minis, you might be like, ah. Now this is 33.5 grand on the road, this one I believe, which is a lot of money for a mini, and especially as if you look around, this doesn't have leather. It doesn't have a panoramic roof, it doesn't have things like folding door mirrors. You can spend a lot more on one of these, but it's a really fun car to have and own, or, you know, a loan in my case, which has been awesome. And what I mean by that is it's just brilliant. Every time I get in this, I smile and have fun, and it's a diesel, you know, it shouldn't be too exciting, it shouldn't, but it really is. And even people like my old man, he never gets excited about cars, he's like the total opposite to me, but since I've had this, he's been bugging me, joking, take me out for driving it, joking, take me out for... And I took him out the other day, and he was so happy, he was like, he just couldn't believe it. It's like, that is the funnest car, and he loved all the lights and the round big sat-nav in the middle, and it's a fun and happy place to be in, especially when I'm used to mostly sort of BMW or Audi, you know, the typical sort of German interiors that tend to be a little bit... They're beautiful places to sit, don't get me wrong, but they're just a bit dull. I'm going to fill up with petrol, diesel even. Better not put petrol in it. That wouldn't be very nice. And I'll get back to you. Right, now when I think of Mini, I think of small 2-door hatchback minis, you know? Little petrol things, pop and bang, Cooper S, that sort of thing. JCW. So when Mini started being like getting growing, if you like, you know, the Countryman, and then that awful Paceman, really didn't like the Paceman. The Clubman, when that came along, in fact the first gen, I really liked that car because it wasn't really much bigger than the normal Mini, it was just a bit stretched out, and they drove really well. And in fact, when I was at Nürburgring recently, there was a number of the first gen Clubmans out there. Well, I say first gen Clubmans, I mean the fairly recent first gen, what, 2008 onwards, 2007 onwards, not the original old tiny Clubmans. But, and so moving on to this one, I didn't really know what to expect, but the first thing that struck me with this car is how well it handles. Now, a normal Mini Cooper handles extremely well, and you know, that's what we think of when we think of minis. Is they're very nimble, they're very they're great for in town, they're great for nipping around, and they're just very good at changing direction. Now when you add a bit of wheelbase to them, like they've done, like Mini have done with the Clubman, it makes the whole car even more stable. And actually when you look at this car from behind, especially with the big wheels that it's got on, it looks so stable. It looks like it's got a very, very, very good footprint, and it certainly feels that way when you start throwing it into corners. You know, it really handles well in all weather. It's really not put a foot wrong, and yeah, it just feels so stable. The rear end feels very, very planted, and you get plenty of traction through the front tyres. So it's a great car on the move. It handles very well. What I would urge most people to stay away from, which the people that want them probably won't listen to me anyway, but is the bigger wheels. So this has got, I think they're the, I won't say 19s, I think they're the 18s. They're the biggest wheels you can get, the basic, like the John Cooper Works wheels. I think this has got some kind of a John Cooper Works kit on it, but it's not a John Cooper Works. We all know how brands just keep adding all these S-Line Black Edition, M Sport Plus. Like, it's just, you know, it's I wouldn't call it a marketing exercise, but you can just, you know, you can keep adding on to what you've got, and obviously the brands will keep charging you more. But with this one, you're getting the bigger wheels and a few other bits and bobs, and a few JCW details throughout the cabin. But the bigger wheels, they must add and help with the handling, but they completely, well, not completely, but they do ruin the ride. Now if you hit anything, even a medium-sized pothole in the UK, I like this drain cover now. Well, it didn't do it then, of course it wouldn't on camera, but you can feel the suspension almost bottoming out, and that's because the tyres are so low profile and there's not a great deal of suspension travel in this car. So when it hits something big enough, it basically bottoms out, and you feel it through the cabin. You feel this like real hard knocking. Wow, honestly, did you just see that? I must be invisible today. I've literally almost had about 5 accidents and run someone over, and I've been crawling along, as you can see. Wow, madness. Maybe I'm better off going fast so people can hear me. Anyway, so it's yeah, so the big wheels, although they look good, they really do finish off the way this car looks. You know, they make it look more muscular, etc. I would go for an inch smaller. I would go for the smaller wheels, and that would just add that extra bit of ride comfort. The other thing, now don't get me wrong, it hasn't put a foot wrong, and in fact I thought that this automatic was a ZF 8-speed. It is an 8-speed, but it's not a ZF one. It's made by some other company who I assume are a slightly cheaper manufacturer than ZF, but it does a brilliant job, and to me it feels almost as good as the ZF 8-speed. It responds well, it changes gears well, it's just a really good box. When I think of Mini, I think of manual, so I would have preferred to have had a manual in this car. I think it would have added a bit more character, a bit more involvement. But on long journeys, obviously the auto's great, as all autos are. And the other thing is, obviously the auto, I don't know exactly how much it adds, but I'm guessing it's probably somewhere between 1,500 and 2 grand. If you want to save a bit of money and have a bit more fun, I would suggest going for the manual. Every manual I have tried in a Mini for the past, that's been made in the past, say 10 years, have been brilliant, from the basic one up to, you know, the John Cooper Works. They're, you know, really good clutch, and the boxes seem to be, you know, really nice, not too notchy, and yeah, great manual gearboxes. So manual gearbox on this, and as I say, I would go for the slightly smaller wheels. I know they won't look quite as good, but honestly they're going to improve the ride like 2 times. This car's also got the head-up display on it, which is the Mini head-up display, which is the one where it kind of comes out of the dashboard. It looks a bit makeshift, and some people have got in here and gone, well, you know, where'd you buy that from? It almost looks like it's an aftermarket sort of add-on, and I think you can actually have them added on aftermarket. And I think the main reason that Mini can't have a normal regular projector on the windscreen is because of the angle of the windscreen in the Minis. They're quite severe, so they've had to use this. But I've always kind of looked at it and gone, oh yeah, like, you know, well, I'm sure that's not going to work. But you know what, it works very well. It works just as well as any, it's the same projector or the same graphics and stuff that you see in all the new current 5 Series BMWs. You know, you get all your mapping nav up there if you've got the full Pro Nav or whatever Mini call it. So it's really good, really effective. Just the unit itself looks a little bit. Now, other things about this car: running costs, it's been very efficient. It's regularly returned high 40s. It is good on motorways. It settles down. The 8th gear is nice and long in this one, so it's a very good cruiser. There's a bit more wind noise again because of that, you know, again, all Minis are a bit like that. They're not the most aerodynamic cars in the world. The windscreen's always quite angular or stick up in the air, so you're going to always get that sort of extra wind noise. This one's got the Harman Kardon sound system though, so you get really good sound in here. What else can I talk about? Now, in terms of, so this is the SD, so it's the high-powered 2 litre, so it's the BMW 2 litre 4-pot diesel, and it's, I wouldn't say it flies, but it certainly feels quicker in this car than any BMW I've tried the unit in. Now, I think the quoted figures are around 180 brake horsepower, and probably high 200s in foot-pounds of torque. But it feels really good. Like, it gets this car up and it goes. It throws it down the road. But like all diesels, I've come to the conclusion recently that especially 4-pot diesels, they're never gonna be, if you've got a 4-pot diesel, it's never gonna be the sort of car that you go, ooh, I'm gonna get up on a Sunday morning and go out for a, you know, a serious drive-in, because they're fun to a certain point, and then they're just, that fun factor goes when you really try to push on it, kind of goes, because the diesel just doesn't have that extra to give you, whereas the 6-pot BMW diesels have, you know, a bit more on top of that. And obviously when you then go to the petrol equivalent, like the Cooper S petrol version of this, is going to give you that extra entertainment. It revs out, you know, it's going to give you a lot more exhaust and cabin engine noise, genuine engine noise. This one, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I'm sure I hear some kind of orchestrated engine sound going around the cabin at certain revs and in certain modes, but I might be wrong. There we go, see, no problem. Greasy conditions, that was foot on the floor, and off we go, up to 30 miles an hour obviously, and now dropping into a 20 zone. But yeah, it's a really fun car. I'm gonna miss having this car on the drive. As I say, if it was mine, and if I was paying, you know, if I was paying good money for one, for this money, I would still have an M-Light. But this has got some options that you could strip out, like the head-up display, the Harman Kardon, the bigger wheels, the Pro Nav. Like, there are things you could strip out of this, and it would soon lose that 33 grand price tag. And I think that's, to me, the good thing about a Mini is you should be able to go out and buy a really nice, fun Mini for 25 grand. You know, 25 grand is a very nice and good proposition to me for a Mini, because the quality in here is brilliant. It's almost on par with BMW, and it does share a lot of switch gear, and there's a lot of familiar things in here. The iDrive system, it's all the new iDrive 6, it's this touch screen, etc. So the tech's in here, it's just in a completely different package. And in terms of like practicality and space, the seats are brilliant. Again, when my old man sat in it, and I take my old man out in many cars that I get, and he sat in very nice cars in you know, over the years, and he got in this and he was blown away by the seats. They don't look particularly special, but again, typically BMW, Mini BMW, you get in them, they don't look like, they're not shouting at you, but you get in them, you're like, oh wow, they're really good. And I'm a giant, and I fit, you know, I fit really well in this car. I get really good vision. I've got 3 inches above my head, so just backs up that it's not a Mini anymore. But in terms of practicality, it's great. Rear boot space pretty good with the seats folded down. There's lots of room in there. There's lots of storage bins and stuff. Matt from CarWow, I'm sure he loves this car because you can put bottles and you put stuff everywhere. So in that respect, it's really good. I'm not sold. I know it's a sort of a history thing. I'm not sold on the way the rear doors open, and if you spring them open accidentally when it's parked near another car or near a wall, they will fly into that car. And yeah, as they did on my M135. So you've just got to be careful with the rear doors if you trigger the key in your pocket or whatever. But otherwise, yeah, it's the most important thing about this car, I think, is it puts a smile in your face. When it, you know, if this was an equivalent anything else, it would just be a sort of diesel run-of-the-mill commuting car, but this one really does give you that extra bit of excitement, and I'm going to miss it. That's the main thing, is I'm going to miss it. Every time I get in it, I don't get too excited about driving it, but every time I get out of it, I kind of think, yeah, that was fun, and I do the all-important look back, just because I know it's a slightly odd looking car, but I actually really like the way it looks. I think it looks cool, I really do. So I'm going to miss it. And any questions about it, I'm sure I've missed out a few bits and bobs. I know I go on forever and sometimes look back on it and I'm like, oh, I missed out that, didn't talk about this. But yeah, it's a bit of a rush video, but it's a great car, and I'm going to miss it. But we've got more minis to come. I think I've got a John Cooper Works coming next week, and there's some crazy deals on those, so I hopefully going to get my hands on that for a few days, review that, and see if that is a match for, say, the M-Lights in terms of excitement, and I'm pretty sure it definitely will be in terms of excitement. So so let's see what happens there. Thanks for tuning in as always, guys. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up always help in terms of the crazy YouTube algorithms. It somehow gives you more views in the long run, etc, etc. And as I say, leave any questions or comments below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Cheers, and have a very happy new year, if I can still say that on the 9th of January. Cheers, guys.